So Jamahl, obviously you're heavily involved in talent ID. Do you notice is there any trends or kind of similarities in regards to recruitment that you find happens?
Yeah, I mean, we try to because we've noticed that there can be some trends on, you either get too much, you go too much on the technical side or too much on the physical side. Yeah. And what you find is, if you focus too much technical at the younger ages and you neglect the movement and that physical attributes, you find that as soon as the pitch gets bigger, like you go 9v9, 11v11, those players no longer can sort of manage on the bigger pitches. So if you're not careful, you end up with too much technical that, when you get into the business end of the game,
they can't move.
They can't move, and
it's a running game.
That's what I'm saying.
You have to be able to move.
And as you know, look where the game's going now. It's especially in the Premier. It's high tempo. It's quick. Yeah. You got to have decent like speed and movement and mobility and stuff. To make it at a good level anyway. So I think for us we sort of notice that. So we get them tested. Yeah. Like on their physical attributes. Yeah. Before.
I mean, there's no magic wand. You can never tell, but it's almost about getting as much information as you can to be able to go, well, we got this data here, because it is becoming also quite data driven in terms of kind of these predictors, and I
don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. So I've been looking at that. I didn't know a lot about the data stuff before, but I've been looking into it a little bit, and it serves its benefits for recruitment, because for example, if you know your profile and you know exactly the type of player you're looking for, so you got a clear understanding of what you're looking for in each position, then you can, with the data, you can narrow that down. So for example, if we had data on 20 left backs, I know it's difficult with the younger ages, but if you had data on, let's say 16s, 18s or something, and you had data on 20 left backs and 7 of them fit the criteria of what you're looking for, then the scouts can focus on those 7. You see what I'm saying?
They don't have to do a mass piece of work.
You see what I'm saying? You're just focusing just on that 7, and then the rest of it is down to the naked eye, like the scout, the reports, etc. And then you narrow that down to the player that you're going to take. But I think data does have its benefits, but you got to be careful that you're not leaning too far towards data or too far towards.
Again, it's just about having all kind of piecing it together with all the information, which I think is interesting. I mean, I can't remember. I was reading an article and they were talking about the data starting to drive and more and more in regards to analysis team. They're becoming heavily involved in recruitment.
It's a bit of a shame though, because look, credit to them. They've gone uni, done whatever they've done. But what I've started to notice is that there's less and less people that have actually gone out on the grass, watched raw talent, seen that raw talent, scouted that raw talent, and you see that if you look towards the top end, it's a lot more people that haven't done anything down this, like they haven't watched grassroots players, they haven't watched young academy players. They've literally just watched. They've literally just focused on data stuff, and then they sort of give the data guys the recruitment roles, which I think for me, it's a little bit of a shame, because there's top guys that have got eye for talent, and I think we don't want to take that away from the game, because that's what talent spotting is, isn't it?
And you're kind of devaluing the kind of skill that person has in terms of being able to go and spot a player like straight away. I remember someone was saying to me who worked in recruitment, you should be able, as soon as you come and watch a game, you should be able to spot something, some sort of strength, some sort of like star quality, or they say kind of their super strength in a player. That was quick. That was got good technical ability.
Like an outstanding attribute.
There's something outstanding. You should be able to spot it quite quickly in that player and understand what that's about. And I don't think that's easy, to be honest. I don't think that's
and people are mistaken when that sort of comment's made, because they think it's something to do with what they're doing with the ball at their feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spotted players just by how they move off the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look how he moves off the ball.
Yeah.
And you think about the age you're watching, and you're like, nah, this player, his movement's good. So then you start to focus on that. So when you're watching the game, you're just focusing on that individual player, and then you piece together everything else based on just what you've seen from that movement. Because now, if I'm looking for a striker that's, you know, we've got a striker that, you know, doesn't move very well, so they're not getting themselves into goal scoring opportunity. And then you see this kid now off the grass, never been in the academy, for example, but his movement, it's just quality. Then you would look at that and you think, okay, so he's got something.
We can work on the shooting. We can work on the technique stuff. We can work on that. But if his movement's right, then he's going to get chances, or she's going to get chances. It's about developing that. I think that's quite interesting. It's something that, hearing that, definitely young people need to hear that, in terms of where because a lot of people will listen to that who want to be in the environment, want to be in academy football, and you go, what they don't know what a scout's looking for. Sometimes a player thinks it's all about what they're doing on the ball, in terms of their having the ball and dribbling past 7 people and scoring a lovely goal. But actually, it might be other things, because let's be honest, in academy environments, everyone's good. Everyone's got a basis level of technical ability. It's just kind of those added things that you don't get taught. The thing is how much time does a player actually spend on the ball in that 90 minutes or whatever time frame it is? What was the data? It was like 2 to 5 minutes. A player spends about 2. I think the data was around 2 to 5 minutes on the ball, actually on the ball. And that's in
the whole game.
Yeah, the whole game, 90 minutes.
You see what I'm saying? So when you look at it that way, then you've got, you know, what is it? 80 something odd minutes off the ball. And what are you doing off the ball? Because really, your off the ball movement can create chances. Your off the ball movement can create passing opportunities for you to retain possession. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So off the ball movement is probably more, what you do off the ball is probably more important than what you do on it. That is, the scale's more tipped towards what you're doing off the ball, because that's how you're gonna keep.
I remember when I first started coaching, but into my coaching time, and someone was like, what's the most important thing in a pass? And I was like, the pass, the technical, the type. And he was like, no, movement. I was like, it threw me. They were like, the movement, and I was like, interesting, why? And I was just literally a conversation. Someone seen who was helping with my coaching. They were like, the movement, because the movement sets up everything. It's
the first thing. Look, if you're not in a good a position to receive the ball, so you haven't moved well, you're already going to affect your first touch. You're going to affect the space that you have to then get your head up and play your next pass. You see what I'm trying to say? So that movement before you receive the ball is vital. You can create so much space and give yourself a lot more time just by a little drop of the shoulder, you know, a couple steps away and coming in.
That's me all day. That's me in star football. Yeah, that's me.
But you know, sometimes data don't show, Jays, something like the mental side of the game. Obviously, like leadership skills, data may not necessarily show that. How much stuff in terms of like your recruitment and what you tell your staff and tell your coaching staff, how much you look into like the temperament, leadership skills, communication skills? How much you look into that?
This is where the scout is the most important in terms of talent ID. You know, you can't lean too far towards the data, because data also could be, you could be playing with a team that doesn't suit your how you play, and then that data is going to be reflected upon that team.
You're a midfielder, and they miss out the midfield. You know what I mean? That and they say, "Oh, miss out the midfield. He hasn't touched the ball." But actually, that's not the style that I play. I like getting on the ball.
Or a midfielder creating chances, but the striker that's playing in your team doesn't move into positions where you can feed him. So then his data is going to show he doesn't create enough chances. But now if you put him in a team that the forward is a better mover, then you're going to see a different type of data for him. And this is where, like we're saying, the naked eye, the scout watching the player, as well as data. I think data is good. I think it's got its benefits, but we just need to be careful of it leaning solely towards data. Like you like, for example, like I said, analysis, getting, you know, big recruitment roles when there's guys that have, you know, what you don't really hear of the guy that initially spotted the star player.
Yeah,
you're only gonna hear the credit will generally go to whoever the head of recruitment was.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's never the guy that actually spotted that player,
which I think is a big flaw in recruitment, and you see it all the time. And you know, let's be honest, everyone's trying to get into that photo when they sign the player. Everyone, in terms of, I do think that the more that we can praise at the ground level, the better environment was come, because you know how this environment is. It's a quite a harsh, intense environment where there's almost a lot more self-praise than pats on the back. And with that comes that kind of, definitely whoever can seem to be developing, if you're a coach, developing a player, or as a scout, spotting a player. I think it's quite crucial to help support the environment, because everyone wants to be part of that. Get everyone around it.
Listen, you know, we said it earlier. We said it before that you're as good as the team you have.
Yeah,
you can't do it all. So that the example that when I spoke before about when the emails coming in and me looking at the emails and vetting that person that may not have got given a job otherwise, you know. So I've got a few scouts like this. So one in particular, you know, email come in, you know, wanted a job at Palace, gave him a call, met him, he come in voluntary, and one of the players that he scouted is a pro at the club. So he's under 18 at the moment. He's a first year scholar, Republic of Ireland international. He spotted him. You see what I'm saying? But at the time, I had vetted the guy and brought the guy in as a volunteer scout, and he's brought him into one of our development centres. He's in there for a few weeks. Obviously, I've done the rest as he's come in. I've seen and I've said, this after a few sessions, it might have been a few months. He was in the centre, so he was worked on him for a bit, and I said, this kid's ready to go in. So the kid's gone in, but I've always given the praise to that guy that found the player. And you'll see that maybe once, let's say that he makes it to the first team, and he does what Aaron's done. Yeah. Is he gonna really get the praise at that end? No one's not gonna talk about him. It may not even be me. It might be just further. The
first team manager, giving him the opportunity.
So I just think, as we're saying, the credit doesn't go as much to the actual spotters that have seen them initially. And before, even whilst he was in, what I noticed with this particular scout is that every season he gets 2 to 3 signings, and we're not signing loads and loads of players every year. So
that's good numbers.
That he's getting.
I think I remember one club that their scout was saying that they, in order to be retained, just has to sign 1 player a season. I was like, 1 player a season? He was like, it's hard to sign players. It's hard to sign players.
But it's also the quality as well.
Yeah, of course.
So I've looked at the quality of the player that he's brought, and you're thinking that he's brought in some. You can see why the player was scouted, and look, he's not been in long, and he's got a pro, a player that's on a pro already. Yeah, that's an international. Yeah, so you gotta give credit to that naked eye, that guy that's gone out to the parks, and he's identified talent when others haven't.
Or they've sent in so many that have been not good enough. Yeah, because that can happen as well, where you get someone who believes they've got the naked eye, and they send in loads and loads, and one after the other, you're going, not quite there, not quite ready, not quite there, not quite ready. But yeah, the whole talent ID, we talk about biasness, and is it something that you got to be concerned about or consider in regards to recruitment? With you talked about earlier your profiling and making sure there's an understanding of what you want in each position. Yeah, does that need to be strong?
Has to.
Yeah,
has to, because this is what I noticed in my time within the academy football. So obviously we've sort of rectified it at Palace, but what I noticed was each player that was being signed by a coach was a reflection of what that coach liked.
Yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't necessarily
what the academy
the
needed.
player that fit the academy profile. It was the profile of that coach.
Yeah.
So, for example, if and this is why I said that it's got to be led from the top end, i.e. the chairman.
Earlier,
the chairman, not the manager, the chairman, because he governs, or director of football, they govern everything below, and then you get a manager that fits within that model
philosophy,
of the philosophy of what you're
culture.
looking for. So, for example, if we're out in the parks and we're scouting a number 10, but we know that we don't play with a number 10, then it doesn't really make sense stockpiling on 10s, because that's not how we play. And there's
4-4-2.
Yeah, they say we play 4-4-2. We don't play with a 10, and that's the model that the top end want.
No matter how good they are, or do you go? We make an exception.
No, if the player is good, the player is good. But you're always looking at the mold of the players that are going to come through. So if we don't play with a 10, for example, and this player is a top number 10, but we don't play with a 10. Where are you going to play that player?
Pathway's just blocked.
Where and how are you going to play them? And then what you're going to find is that he's going to be stifled, depending on what age he comes in. He's going to be stifled at a lot of age groups because he doesn't fit within the system that the club plays.
I think that takes. You got to be quite brave as well to do that, in terms of you got to say you're good, but you're not right for us. Sometimes
no one wants to miss out in it.
Clubs will just take that boy in and go, stay with us. We might turn you into a winger, or we might turn you into a striker, but actually you're just a good number 10, or you're just a good do you know what I mean? A team that plays with, I don't know, they play three at the back, and that's how you develop your teams. But you got fullbacks, and you're going, well, we'll develop you into a bit of a wing back, but actually that's not the strength and qualities of your child. So it's quite interesting.
And there's different types of 10s as well.
Yeah.
So if it's a 10 that can play in the front two, that can be the one to drop in and link with the midfield, then that's different, because then he's more a forward. That's, the old fashioned 9 and 10.
Yeah, like a Bergkamp and Ian Wright. I'm showing my age, but
The one of these times now is the 10 that can't play forward, because he's not going to run in behind, and he spends a lot of his time coming into midfield,
dropping into pockets, into the deep line places,
and
to pick up
playmaking, as opposed to being a striker. Do you see what I'm saying? And then when you got those ones, they more often than not, they tend to be players that are not the greatest of movers in terms of like speed and stuff.
Linked to what you said, they were technically very good, but they can't move to be maybe an old-fashioned box-to-box or a 4 or an 8 to get around the pitch. So let's just put them just in front. Let's get people around to do that kind of work, and they can just use their technical ability to find passes and see things. And it's interesting in terms of your experience in different clubs. Do you think, is there strong philosophies in clubs that stick by that, or do they just I think even if I go back to the time at Brentford, Brentford had a set way of how they wanted the team to play, set criteria, set philosophy, and every player that was brought in on that philosophy. Was brought in with each profile. They had to fit within the profile of centre mid, left back, whatever it was, and they did very well in terms of they
at that time.
The youth setup was developing quite strongly. I know they obviously took a U-turn on the way they saw things in terms of developing, and at the moment it seems like it's benefiting them. But it's so interesting in regards to talent and idea. And not a lot of people know that in terms of profiling, and there'll be a lot of parents out there that will go, I had a trial at, I don't know, let's just say a club, Man United, Cardiff, let's go up and down the country, Southampton, York, whatever, and they'll go, I was good enough for that environment, whatever happened. And maybe it wasn't articulated in the right way through coaches or recruitment, that you just don't fit our philosophy, our style of play, our way of working. You're a very good player, but you're just not right for us.
Or there's a player above
or below,
and below,
so many variables
that we got high hopes for. So it's like, there's no real point in blocking that pathway. You might say, oh, why did you bring him in then? But it's not about why did you bring him in, because if he was considerably ahead in terms of where those players was at, then you would say, okay. But if it's just, look, he's a good player, definitely good for the environment, but we got one below.
And at times as well, what sometimes families or even people don't understand is that them not being in an environment might actually benefit that player.
Yeah.
Because then they can go and into a different environment, hopefully, and actually excel. Yeah, we know things are difficult to get into different environments, but hopefully that's the vision as well. It's not easy to take. You talk about being released, or you're talking about being on a trial and you're not successful, but sometimes that's the thinking as well, in terms of actually they probably will benefit by not being there because the pathway is quite blocked for them, or there's a good player in front of them, or there's a good player behind them coming through, and just making sure that environment can suit that player. So so interesting.
Jay, how do you make sure a common criticism of academies is that they stockpile on children? Let's say just got loads and loads and loads because they don't want to miss out.
30 kids in the age group.
30, you know what I mean? How do you ensure that, you know, you don't stockpile?
Yeah, for me, I think you have to. When the club stockpile, it's more because there's probably multiple people that are able to sign players and release players, and I feel that's where the problem is. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And on top of it, it's not all followed by the profile.
Yeah.
You want to release the player? Tell me why.
Yeah.
And does it fit? You know, does he not fit into the profile of what we're looking for?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? Because it's the days of just saying, you know, he's not good enough, or he's not been performing well, whatever it is. He might not be performing well now, but his potential is that he's not for you. He's for the
4
next
years.
two coaches down the line. He's not for you.
That's a great point.
We've signed players that are not for that age. It's not. We know he's not going to be ready for you. Do you see what I'm trying to say? We know that already.
We're
signing him because we know that in 3 years, when he gets to that age group, that's when we predict that his peak will come.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say to you?
Dude, I think again something that people need to hear and understand in regards to talk about potential versus performance in terms of. Yeah, I've been around people that they're saying that, you know what I mean, their team might be losing, so to speak, and they're going, not a good player. Yeah. You're like, 11 years old, man, what are you talking about? You're not signing them to win matches for you now. You're signing them it's an individual development program for these young players, and hopefully that, they might not be firing on all cylinders, but 2-3 years down the line, let's see where that takes us. If the learning curve meets well. So again, something that I think sometimes people don't really understand in regards to the environment when, and sometimes it's people working in the environment, if I'm honest with you, that they don't understand that kind of potential versus performance kind of philosophy, theory. What are we calling it? What are we calling that?
I think we got to understand that they are two separate entities.
Yeah.
And they both need to be taken very serious.
Yeah.
And you have to find a balance between the two. Yeah. Because there's players with high potential and low performance. And if you're not careful, you release those players.
Yeah.
And then they flourish.
Yeah.
Later on down. Like for example, the lad that we let go at Palace, and then he let go at Charlton, went Leyton Orient and started thriving because that's when he grew more into himself. And I feel that he went into an environment where he wasn't in a pond where there was so many players like him. He went into an environment where he could be the man, and then that's when he could express himself. So maybe we have to look at when we do have a lot of good players, how do we ensure that each of those individual players are expressing themselves and not thinking, this player he's in with the first team, so he's the top dog. Because how much times have we seen the roles change? The one that's with the first team early is not the one that ends up into the first team or goes on to have a career.
You see it a lot. You see, they cross over the waters and they're going into the first team, and you hear the stories in regards to that as well. And then you hear the stories that they're no longer playing football, and you go, wow. But when you was 18, you was deemed to be the next star boy.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting.
So Jay, just looking in terms of, and a parent asked me this question about recruitment out of the club. So say a player gets released, and we're coming up to that kind of season now, kind of that kind of time of the year, looking at, some of the 16s might be going on to new pastures, 18s will be getting told decisions soon as well. How much do recruitment as a whole, not as a Palace as a whole, manage boys out of the club? So once they've been told no, how much do clubs do to find new clubs, or is that not really the responsibility?
You have to have an exit strategy when players are let go. Sometimes, the parent will be like, they will refuse to help.
We know.
You'd get. I mean, a lot of times you'll get that because they just feel like they shouldn't have.
Their emotions are high at that stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everyone chips in. The coaches speak to coach friends that they know. Some clubs have a designated person that deals with all the players that are released. It's their role to sort of find them clubs to go. Like a few years ago, we didn't scholar 5-6 players. Well, maybe more than that. Malik Spooner's age,
yeah.
Wilf Evers and all of those boys, and those are boys that I had put in. But when we didn't scholar them, they was all placed at various different clubs. So Malik went to Nottingham Forest, thriving. I think he's on a pro down there, doing well. Wilf went to Shrewsbury. Cam had went to Leicester. Now he's at Man City. So there's players that they went on to.
The defender. Yeah.
So there's players that that was placed in places, or they found some places themselves, but there was options within the club that the club would have spoken to multiple different clubs.
Yeah, which I mean, we the exit strategies become strong. I mean, because it's almost like, as I keep saying, academies are now built towards looking like an educational. It's almost like you go to school, you finish your GCSEs, and the school doesn't try and get your college. Yeah. It's almost there's a duty of care there, I do believe, and it's just how much of a duty of care do and how long before you go. We've tried, we're helping. I think hopefully long term, what clubs will have is sort of like a lifelong membership that they can come in different capacities. You always kind of lead to the coaching, but I don't just mean coaching. It could be anything in the club. There's so many roles in football now. 16, 18, they can be in the business department after it if they wanted to. But I think it's quite a crucial stage in regards to exits.
The thing maybe to consider as well, and maybe what some parents might think is how long does the club continue to try to support the player once they're released. So for example, and it's probably a question for the floor. So if a player's released, so we don't scholar a player, and then we've got a number of clubs, and the player ends up going to XYZ club. Let's say he goes in there and he's there for a few months, and then they don't take him. Then who does the responsibility lie on after that?
I think given the opportunity to the child, I think you've kind of done your job there. I think whether they go to, it doesn't have to be going into football. It could be you've just helped them go to college, or you just touching base with them in regards to going into an environment. I think that's where it kind of stops. I just think in terms of academy football, especially if you have a child that is there from sort of 9 years, signed at 9, they've been there probably 9 to 8 years. I do think there's some duty of care towards that child, because it's kind of they're losing a lot in terms of mentally, family, friendship groups. It almost feels quite raw.
You think that maybe they should allow then for that, particularly the ones that are there from 9.
Yeah. So
you see the psychologist, because that's different from obviously the player cares like general.
So in my previous world, I used to support with this area, and it's a difficult one, because as well, I think in regards to the environment, it's becoming more developed in regards to understanding around the psychology and psychiatrists and having that kind of mental support. But I think also when you associate in a footballing environment, generally speaking, you associate those things with something's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to see a psychiatrist. What are you going to see? You're right.
After they've been released, I mean.
So I think it's quite crucial, to be honest.
Yeah. So
I think it's quite crucial. I think there's lots of things going on for that child. If they say they don't want it, then there's nothing really you can do. Yeah. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of offer of support in that sort of way.
Even if there's like a schedule. Yeah. So you'd say give them 6 sessions, for example.
100%. I agree with that. Just
as the art, because the thing is, we can find we can contact a number of clubs.
Yeah.
Most clubs send the email of the players they're going to release. They send a list.
Yep.
And they send it out to everyone, and everyone looks at it. And
do they look at it, though, Jay? Do they look at it?
Yeah.
I was always kind of skeptical.
I'm a bit skeptical as well.
When it goes out to 90 clubs, I'm not saying goes out to like the club. All the clubs get it. Is it sometimes going to say spam folder, or man look at it, is it kind of get pushed to the side, or do
well, I can only speak for me,
of course.
So me personally, I look through each player. Some of them I would have known already, and I would know whether they're for me or not. If I don't know, I would speak to contacts. What do you know about this player, or speak to the club and just get a little feel for what the player is. Most of the time they give good feedback. So it's not always easy getting the feedback
because they want to help them get
because they want to help them get something and show that they've done their part. So I will speak to contacts and just ask about the player, and especially if it's a position you're looking for as well. But not all the time the players coming out of the clubs, doesn't matter what category, doesn't mean they're for us.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well, because everyone goes, oh, Cat 1's going to be dropping a lot of talent soon. Let's just pick up the pieces there, and they might not be right for you. You might find it's better off going maybe a Cat 3 club, because they might. You never know. It just depends.
I think we've lost more players going upwards than we've taken when we was a category 2.
Yeah,
we lost more going up than we taken coming back down. I think for us.
Serious?
Yeah, I think we've given more upwards than taken back down.
I think Palace's recruitment again, thanks to Jamahl, Palace's recruitment at those younger ages is really, really strong. And you kind of find that.
And it's not easy, you know. Especially, so you got to look at Palace. So Palace was a good category 2 team in terms of the club, but in terms of the infrastructure, we was far behind category 2 clubs as well, because we didn't have our own facility.
Cat 3 kind of, isn't it, really?
You're playing at, some of the venues you're playing at, it's sort of it was like public venues. So, anyone's walking in and
school
out
across the road and stuff.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, when you're bringing the kids to that venue, and then they might be going to some of the bigger club venues, and as well, a lot of the players support those clubs as well. We've been, Palace has got a decent fan base locally. Like
South London proud.
Whether it's like genuine Palace fans or Palace is my local club, so they have a genuine
community feel. It's always had that community feel to it.
So you're fortunate in that way, but competing with those clubs, a lot of that is down to the staff that we've got, like the scouts, the pre-academy coaches, or the coaches at the club. A lot, especially recruitment. So we spend a lot of the time sort of. It's more about selling yourself in a way, more so than the club, because to me it's who are you gonna trust to take your child on that journey? It's not, there's loads of good clubs that do good things. You don't know which one they're gonna come through at. I
remember someone said to me. I remember when I was working at a club, and I remember I was working with the younger age groups, and this person was a high figure in the scouting, and we had a conversation, and I remember them saying, develop the relationship first. Develop the relationship first. The coaching, the football, we're in a good enough environment that will come. But develop the relationship with the family. If they need you to call them, if they need you to go to a barbecue, if they need you to develop the relationship with the family and the child, because if you do that and you're going on that journey with the child, they'll come and contact you, they'll ask about it, and they'll stay with the club. I remember that vivid, because I was a bit like, what? I ain't going to a barbecue, mate. There's safeguarding issues there. But
that's where we've done well. The relationships and the trust the trust that people's had in like a lot of us as individuals. But it's not just speaking. It's like we've actually proven and done things even when players have been released.
Yeah,
you see what I'm trying to say? So like Malik that I mentioned, that's at Chelsea now.
Yeah.
You know, he was released at Palace after, so I signed him at 11. So I watched him playing district football. So I signed him at 11s at Palace, and I thought this kid raw talent, but he's got good potential. Like I saw long-term potential in him because of the ability that he had as an offensive player, particularly. So he signed him at 11s, did well. But you know, in this environment's different to grassroots, and sometimes, you know, all the departments at the club have got to understand that coming out of grassroots and going into academy, it's not they're not going to necessarily adjust in one season. It could take a few seasons for them to, you know,
get comfortable.
You get comfortable. The bad habits,
coaches, everyone wants to see it in that first session.
You got to remember the coach changes the next year, so they're in there for a year trying to get, you know, familiar with it, and then the coach changes, and that coach is looking at something completely different to what the other coach is saying, and we're not considering all of those aspects when we're saying, he's not good enough. So the lad was released after 2 seasons. He went 11s to 13s, was let go. For me, I didn't think it was a player that we should have released, but at the time, it wasn't like a recruitment decision. It was coaching decision at that time, and we sort of changed it. But so he was let go, and then I spoke to my mate at Charlton when we released him, and he went into Charlton and they signed him. And then after a season, Charlton's let him go. So I was surprised. So at the end of the season, I got a phone call from the dad. It's like, they've let him go. Like, where do we go from here now? So they're thinking now it's the end of the world. Released at Palace, going into Charlton 1 year. I just said, listen, don't worry, because I know he's good enough.
Yeah.
So I said, no, don't worry. So I called my other mate at he was head of recruitment at Leyton Orient. I gave him a shout and I said, look, I got a player for you. He's just been let go at Charlton, and he's like, I got a player in at Charlton that's not really doing well as well. He's just been released. I said, listen, trust me, just take him in and have a look. Like, make that decision yourself. Like, don't judge it off of the player you got in.
Because that's what happens as well. That's what happens as well.
Yes, I get it, but you listen. There's players that's been released at lower level, lower category clubs, and I would still look at the player, because you don't know why they was released. You don't know. You've got to look for yourself. Did they miss something that you're going to see? Do you see what I'm trying to say? And you can't leave nothing to chance. So for me, I would always look. So we have like a lot of showcase games. So we'll put them in that. You know, it's a little integration before a trial. We'll put them in that environment and have a look then. But yeah, this side, so he's gone into Leyton Orient, and that was the fit for him. So he's gone in there and he's just started thriving. You know, end of the first season, loads of clubs are coming in to buy him.
Wow.
You know, big clubs. So he's gone into a few clubs and got good offers, and he opted to stay at Leyton Orient, which, you know, was a brave decision of the family. They opted to stay, so they stayed until end of under 16s, and then towards the end of under 16s, and then Chelsea's come in, bought him, and then he signed a pro last year.
Wow,
17.
It's a great story for that child, isn't it? It's a great story for him.
Two releases, gone Cat 3, straight up to Cat 1.
Just that kind of resilience and perseverance, and just sort of the belief. I mean,
hard journey, man.
Yeah,
but the relationship though.
Yeah,
you see the relationship
to stick with you.
Called him,
you know, and look, a lot of people don't understand that. It's not us that decide whether the club signs you or not.
Yeah,
we can just make the call. I might make calls and the club says, nah, we're not looking for a left back or whatever, and there's not much I can only make that call and try to say, look, let's have a look or whatever. And the opportunities are not the same as for others, because he's gone that pathway and it worked out, and I've helped him at, you know, a few different clubs, and, you know, he's doing well now. It might not be the same for another player, because a club might not be looking for that particular player, and, you know, we're limited with the clubs that they can go to in London. Like, there's not a
it's tough. London's tough in terms of football.
There's a massive pool of players to look at. You know, they might have a player that, you know, he's just okay, but they think, you know, we've got this one already. We've had him in. Let's just stick with this one, unless it's someone that's going to be
massive
wealthy,
potential.
Top 3, top 5, whatever.
And that's another thing that again, people sometimes don't understand about the environment, is that sometimes the young boys are good enough to be in the environment, but it's just timing. It's just so cruel sometimes. It's just an opportunity.
All right, so we move on to the last bit of the show and kind of call it like the advice corner. So we kind of like, I ask a question, Carl asks a question in regards to maybe a bit of advice to give to somebody. So my question is maybe a little bit, I got 2 actually. I kind of nicked 2. I got two. Because one came through on Instagram. So one was, as a player, how do I get signed? You know, you always get that question.
Yeah.
How do I get, Jamahl, how do I get signed? What is your kind of answer?
That's a funny question, because there's many ways to get signed per se, but whether you get signed or not could be down to loads of different factors that I wouldn't know, because it depends on the club, it depends on what's happening within the club. But generally speaking, I would say, if we was to generalise it, I would say, if anything, more than anything else, your character. If you've got a good character, and I mean like spot on, so you're in there, you're asking questions, you're showing that you're a keen learner, you're helping out, you might collect equipment, or you just got a good character, good rapport with the players and all that sort of stuff. If that is, say, 50%, and then you've got the ability, say the next, say 35, 40%, and then the rest is, I don't know, just anything else that will fit
make
into,
up the
to make up
fill
the,
up
make,
the,
fill up the
gaps,
100. But I'd say character, ability, because you might not necessarily be ready now, but because of your character, someone's willing to take a chance with you. And this is what people don't realize. Your character is the difference, because if you shown that, you know, someone might think, listen, I got time for this kid. Let me like really look into
and because he's not quite there now, I'm willing to work with him in terms of, do you know what I mean, in terms of the gaps that in their learning or anything like that. So I think what my question would be to you would be, talked about a player recruitment, but I'm thinking more of your journey and listening to what you've gone through, which I think is really great in terms of where you started and your aspirations through the Tigers to going on to, you know what I mean, I'm head of recruitment now at a top professional football club. What would you say to someone who is probably at the start of your journey?
It's work rate. The work rate is, I mean, just literally, I can't stress enough about not focusing on money, because you're chasing the wrong thing. If you chase the money, there's only so far you're gonna go. But if you focus on being the best you can, it's the same as a player. You know, a player will do loads of hours on the training field, you know, to be the best, even when he is the best. Look at Ronaldo. Even when he is the best, he's the first in to train, the last to leave. He's perfecting his craft all the time. See what I'm saying? So for me, I'd say focus on results. Like, just even if you wasn't getting rewarded for the results, just knowing that you've done it and you're able to do it, you know that you can carry that anywhere you go.
Nice.
You see what I'm trying to say? So just focus on
good words.
Results.
Good words. Man. I like that.
And that's what I did. I never cared about finances. You know, for me it was just, I want to be the best out there. How am I going to be the best out there? And if I'm not spotting a talent, what am I not looking at? What am I missing? Do you see what I'm trying to say? How can I understand what I'm doing a little bit better? Or what else do I need to learn to become one of the best scouts around?
Final question, Jay. I literally got the final question now. Is, as a parent, so if a parent comes into you now, what advice would you have for a parent that is going through the academy journey with their son?
So they're already in.
So they're already in, and you know what I mean, they're on that roller coaster. What advice could you give to that parent? Because you're a parent yourself. You've dealt with hundreds of parents. What's your advice?
I mean, they don't want to be too pushy on the child. I think that's vital, because sometimes the parent can push them away from football when they think they're pushing them to it. They can push them away from it. Try not to be too outspoken. You know, sometimes you complain about everything. You know, I don't like the color of my kit or this side, because sometimes those
it starts to create a perception. 100%,
and that falls on the child. There's that bias there where they're saying, parents are too problematic.
You know what, the kid's great, but you know what, I got to deal with that parent for 2 years. Is it worth it?
Exactly. And look, that's not to say that they should accept when they feel they've been hard done by. Yeah. But there's ways of going going about or approaching it. And if you can approach it in a way where it's respectable for yourself, people will say, do you know what? You know, they come in and they wasn't happy with X, Y, Z, but their approach of things, they're, nice family, this, that.
Easy going.
Yeah, I just think
that whole taxi driver approach, isn't it? You always hear that. Just be the taxi driver. Just get them to training. Just collect them from training. That's all you do. Let us do the rest. I think that's the kind of the message you always hear in terms of parents. Listen, Jamahl, excellent. Listen, I feel like we could chat every week. We could chat every week, I feel like. But no, listen, great stuff. Listen, Clubhouse, I know you're going to be there.
Is that new app?
Yeah, we're going to be there weekly on a Thursday, 8 o'clock, Clubhouse. Hopefully you could jump in one night and give your nuggets to the people.
Funny enough, I've only just heard about it like last 2 days.
It's getting big out there. It's getting big. We've been in a few forums, some good conversations. The good thing I like about it is a variety of people. You're getting parents as well as coaches, as well as ex-players, all in one room talking about a certain topic. So hopefully we'll see you on the waves there. We'll continue this sort of chats. Thank you.
No worries, man. It was a pleasure.